everyone, I am Anjeli Lorena Sirait with ID number 2007050007, and now I'm going to explain about psycholinguistic for completing my mid test. Psycholinguistic is knowledge hybrid, that is knowledge which was a component examined both of psychology and linguistic. Said this knowledge actually have appeared in the 20th century when psychologist Germany Wilhelm Wundt said that the language can be explained by the principle of the psychological. At that time, study language began to change from his nature that aesthetic and cultural to an approach that's scientific. According to Aitchison, 1998 defines it is as a study of language and mind. According to Harley, 2001, called it is as a study about the process of mental wiring. And meanwhile, according to Clark and Clark, 1977, state that psychology language associated with three main things. That is, that they are compressions, production, and they got language. From these definitions, it can conclude that psychologist is knowledge that studied the process that is passed through mental by people in order to language. In detail, psycholinguistic study four main topic. The first is compression, namely the process mental health that passed by the people so that they can catch what people and to understand what is meant. And the second is it is production, namely the process mental ourselves that make us can be said as we speak. And the third is biological basis and neurological disorders that make a human being can speak. And the last is they got language, namely how children get their language. Psycholinguistic covered three main points: language production, language perception, and language acquisition. The first is language production, refers to the process involved in creating and expressing meaning through language. The second, language perception, refers to process involved in interpreting and understanding both written and spoken language. And the last is language acquisition, refers to the process of acquiring a native or a second language. In relation to language teaching, development psycholinguistic and applied psycholinguistic play significant roles in formulating effective ways of teaching. Psycholinguistic theory covered the language development of humans in accordance with humans' psychical and mental development. These theories are considered in designing language teaching programs and materials in order to be effective for the second language learners master the target language. According to Haras and Andika 2009, mentioned three kinds of language teaching methods which are developed according to psycholinguistic principle. The first is natural method, the second total cycle response method, and the last suggestopedia method. Psycholinguistic study to understanding, producing, and remembering language and hence are concerned with listening, reading, speaking, writing, and memory of language. They are also interested in how we acquire language and the way in which interact with other psychological systems. Many people think that psycholinguistic has a rather date field, emphasizing the role of linguists too much. Although the area might once have been about the psychology of linguistic theory, it is now much more. Still, there is currently no better terms, so it will have to do. Modern research make use of biology, neuroscience, cognitive science, linguistics, and information theory to study how the brain processes language. Psycholinguistics covers the cognitive process that make it possible to generate a grammatical and meaningful sentence out of vocabulary and grammatical structure, as well as the process that make it possible to understand utterance, words, text, and others. Developmental psycholinguistic study children's ability to learn language. I will give an example case. A boy who used to live in Kalimantan and now lives in Medan. He is 2 years old and he lives with her grandmother and mother. But because his mother often goes to work, so he interacts with his grandmother more often. Of course, in his family, they use Indonesian. This boy is only at home and rarely interact with peers. The acquisition of the boy's language is mostly obtained from grandma, mother, and television media that are watched daily. In mastering language, he always responds or imitation and reciting pace to all sounds produced by the observed object, like grandmother, mother, and the media. It can be seen from the vocabulary that continues and increase because it starts from the repetition of words that are heard and produced by themselves. Meanwhile, in terms of the sound of the language spoken, the words spoken by him have not been heard clearly. Based on this description, it can be stated that the source of the voice acquisition of the language environment is heavily influenced by the family environment. In addition, there is also self-generated language, mental and cognitive development. Regarding the family environment as a source of language acquisition, because that is where language is heard and thought every day. Thus, the influence of the family environment is very dominant, especially the grandmother. And the tendency for the boy to acquire language at the age of 2 years is at the stage of transition from one word to two words, but in certain situations, occasionally reveal three words. Well, that's all about my presentation and my explanation. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that given to me. I say thank you.